So this webinar is for anyone who is a query creator or users that are ready to learn some advanced features, as well as, and this will work for anyone with tools version 8.50 or higher. Again, this is a feature called drilling URL, and you will need to be on version 850 or higher. So a little bit about your presenter. I've been in the ERP space for 22 years. My focus has been on new modules, customizations, upgrades, and mentoring and teaching. And with that, I've got a passion to teach, and I like to leverage what I've learned from my experiences to be able to spread my talents to others so that you can do some of the same things. And there's an upcoming conference called psadmin.io on May 6th through the 8th, and I'll actually be presenting at that upcoming conference. So definitely check that out, especially if you're a PeopleSoft admin. Upcoming webinars planned for this for 2018. We're going to do quite a few that are about the PeopleSoft query training, from scheduling a query to left outer joins to maybe even the metadata tables of what's behind PS query for technicals that might need to look and see how a query is made up of. We also have a Process Monitor 2.0 where we rebuilt the Process Monitor, and we'll be doing a webinar showcasing that, and that's a free product for people, as well as a monitoring tool where you can get email alerts. So those are some upcoming webinars. Definitely subscribe to the PeopleSoft Tricks channel on YouTube, and you'll get information whenever there's upcoming webinars coming out. So let's dive right into what we will cover today. So we'll cover what is a drilling URL. We'll actually do a demo where we're going to build that drilling URL, both in a query and a component URL, and then some final points to take away for today. So you can follow along, or you can perform the exercises on your own environment while the YouTube session is going on. It's really your take. This webinar will be available afterwards later on today, so you'll be able to go back and watch it again if you want to just follow along for today and then do the exercises watching the video at a later time. So what are drilling URLs? A drilling URL, it allows you to put a hyperlink or a way to be able to put a link on a field when you have those PeopleSoft results. So a hyperlink, it can link to maybe another query or to a transaction page in PeopleSoft, or it can even go to another website. Perhaps you have a URL that says, whenever you click on this PeopleSoft query results, I want you to go out and query something from another website, perhaps a FedEx website with a tracking number. So the drilling URL is going to lessen the amount of time that the users are going to have to spend copying and pasting while they're researching data to find more information. We'll walk through a simple example today and kind of show that off. So before we jump into that demo, here are the basics that you're going to need to do for a drilling URL. They're built in the expression tab in the PeopleSoft Query Manager tool when you're editing a query. So the first thing is you have to pick what type of drilling URL you are going to want. It could be a query or component. Those are the two popular ones and the ones we'll demo today. You'll need to have a portal and node name. Those are actually optional and will automatically be filled in for you. For most sites, that's probably going to be optional and you don't have to worry about those two. Then you specify what query component you want the user to be able to run when they click on your link. You'll define some prompt search keys, and we'll look at that. You actually have to use the checkbox when you get in there. That's one of the big things to take away from that. And then you can skip the select field. That's something if you ever need to do a value pair, and you'll see that on the screen in a moment. And then the last one is you map which field in the query will have the hyperlink. So with that, let's jump straight into taking a look at a demo of the drilling URL. So bear with me a moment. Let me switch screens real quick. All right, so for our example, we're going to use the user profile security tables because that will apply to if you're on an HCM, financial, supply chain, or campus solutions website. You will be able to use these same examples. So I have two queries. This first one is going to look at the PS role user. In essence, it's every user, um, and this one's actually going to say every role and how many people are in that role. So let's go ahead and go straight into editing that query. And just so you know how it is built, I'm using the PS role defin and then the PS role user table. And what I'm wanting to do is look at the role name, look at the description of a role, and then link over to the, the B table and actually get a count. And so I'm just listing these so that if you want to go back and do them on your own, we're linking the A table to the B table on role name. And again, we're covering the role definition and then the table that actually holds what users go to which roles. For example, what we're looking for is this is listing every role and what the count is, how many users are tied to that role. Now, if I wanted to do more research as a user, the time consuming part would be I would need to come here and highlight ePro requester. And then I have a second query called the PS opera defin. On this one, I've built it so that if I give it the role name, and I had to cut and paste that, which you may not have seen, and I hit OK, then I can actually see who the people are in that role. But then it'd be great if I could actually go to the user profile and maybe do some other changes. But again, I've got to then copy a name, go into the database, go into the security user profile, and then paste and look at that. And I've got it for 8. It won't take a long time, but if there's several that I need to go through and evaluate and put my hands on, it's going to take a while. So we're going to show how drilling URLs is going to make this a lot faster. For this second query, just so you see what it's made up of, it's the PS role user and the PS opera defin table. And what we're doing is we're looking for the criteria of the user gives us the role name, and then with that, we'll link over to the PS opera defin table so that we can actually then list the role name, the user, and what the user's description is. All right, so with that, let's go back to our first query and edit it. What we'd like to do is this first query to then go automatically to the second query if we click on a particular role name. So we start in the expressions and add expression. And in the dropdown, where normally it's character, dates, and things like that, there's actually a new one called drilling URL as of Tools 850. Now you could put in the expression text, but you don't need to do that. You can use one of the wizards, and these 6 are the 6 types you can use. So for this one, we want this query to then have a drilling URL to run another query. So we'll pick the query URL. Again, the portal and no names are going to be optional for most sites. So for the query name, we're going to put in the name of the query. In this case, it is the webinar PS opera defin. And we want it to be in an HTML format. We still want it to be on the page. The other thing is there's this use PSC. If you click that, then the results will go to another page, but it won't give them the menu navigation. So we usually will leave that off. Now here's the next part, and we described this on the PowerPoint earlier. You've got prompt or search keys, select fields, and map columns. The rule of thumb is you need the first and the last one. You don't need the one in the middle unless you're doing something special when you need to send data to another URL. So we're going to do prompt keys, and there's also map columns. By clicking those, they're going to turn them on and make them visible. So down below, what we need to do is, the first one is, how do we know when we run that query, if there's any prompts or search keys, how does that query or component know what to do, what to search for? So what we do is we actually put in the key value. The rule though is you've got to select the selection flag before you can put in a key value. So with this key value, you can put in a default value. Perhaps you have a business unit and it's hard coded in, or it's a set ID of share. You can hard code in and just put in share if it's the appropriate field. But for this one, the role name is actually going to come from our results. So when I do that field lookup, it's going to list everything that it is in the selection part of my query that's being shown to the user. So I will pick a role name. And then down below, this last part about the mapping is which field should have the hyperlink in the results. And usually that will be the same field. I'll pick role name here. Right, so that's all we have to do on that. We can then say, okay. You can see it's put in our expression text. We'll say okay as well. And now we will save our query. And now we'll run the query and see our results. Now you see that there's hyperlinks over here. So when we click on the ePro requester, that is automatically going to run our other query for us. You'll see it opened in a new tab. And now we actually have all the ePro requesters, now limiting the amount of work. You can always go back and click another one and then have a second window open with those results so that you can have both results to be able to deal with if that's the nature of your research. So I'm going to go ahead and close these two tabs, and I'm going to go back to Query Manager. It's time to add another drilling URL, but on this second query, our PeopleSoft for Deafin one. So I'm going to edit that one, run through the same ritual, go to Expressions, add Expressions. We're going to pick the drilling URL. But this time we're going to go to the component URL. And what I want to do is be able to go to the user profile so that I can look up that user, maybe manipulate their email address or things like that. Again, portal and no name can be left blank. You can put in the content reference, but there's this wizard here for adding the content reference. So I'm going to click that. That sometimes will take a while to pull up. So when we click on employee, this is my navigation menu in the portal side. So I'm going to go down to my People Tools, Security, User Profile, and the User Profile. And then it populates most of the other information. You can specify a particular page it will go to, but you are required to put in the menu action. Now, by default, it will have all four, but we know this page only has add and update. So I'm going to pick update. When we come back into the page, it will actually fix that menu action, but that is one of the bugs of PeopleSoft. So I'm going to now click on search keys and map keys. So my search key is operator ID. Now, if I was to do the field lookup and say, okay, I'm passing it the user, the role user, which is in that field, you notice it did nothing. I've got to hit select and then go over to field lookup and select it. Now I can actually type this in if I know exactly the alias and the field name, but again, the selection flag must be on. Then down here, I'm going to click on role user because that's the field I want to have the link for. So we'll say, okay. And we'll say okay on this page as well. We'll save the query and then we'll run it. Now, when we run it, it's going to ask us for the role name because this query was meant to be asked with asking that question. So I know that one of them is the ePro. I have a like on here just to make sure it runs for me during this session. So if it gives us the list, we can now click on any of these and it will actually open the user profile for us in a second window. So here we would be able to edit this, hit save, come back here and perhaps investigate another user as well. Again, adding more tabs, and then as we're done, we would just hit the X to close out those tabs. We're kind of starting back at the very beginning, looking at the role user. We can then look here, we can click on one of these and it'll give us our list. We can click on here and then be able to jump in within 2 clicks. We're actually now in the user profile for a particular role name we were looking for. Again, a simple example to people see how that works, but wanted to use the user profile tables so that it would be applicable to everyone watching the series today. The other thing is these results can go to Excel, and when they go to Excel, Excel will have that hyperlink in the Excel document. And then if they are actually logged on to PeopleSoft on their main web browser, when they click the link, the Excel will then take them back to PeopleSoft and they will not have to log in because they are already logged in. So these links, these drilling URLs also work in Excel documents. All right, let's show. All right, so one of the things we've looked at is the drilling URL if it is a query, and then let me bring that up for you. The drilling URL if it's a query, and then the other one is if it's a component. We have that as well. So apologize for the flashing that happened on that page. I'm not sure what happened. So these are 2 screenshots for the drilling URL for the query and for the component. So some final points of what we've covered today. The drilling URLs are defined in the expressions tab. The most popular that you'll use is query and component, started in Tools 850. This works in Excel and HTML. The portal node names are optional. And those last 3 bullet points, those are going to be your 3 buttons. The first button that's going to be letting us know, how do we actually search? What data should be passed to the prompt or the search key? And again, make sure you use that checkbox. The second field is seldom used, that select field. And that is in case you have an external website and you need to do like pairs, where you may have to say, role name is equal to the value, and that's actually in the URL, then you'll want to play around with that second button for those rare cases. And the third button is the map column. Which field is actually going to get the hyperlink?